Platform has become a very, as you rightly said, quintessential word in the AI era. Probably 80% of the future financial value will come from those business applications.
Example, when Satya Nadella recently says SaaS is dead. So when he says SaaS is dead, what does that mean in the age of AI?
Things are happening around SaaS, how it will get transformed. Even my personal experience and whatever we are also working on is around agentic.
Workflows are going to change. I mean, if you want to integrate AI agents into your workflow, you need to give them access to APIs and tools and databases and so on and so forth. Right? A lot of the big organizations are still built on legacy tech stack. So how?
Next 6 months or even a 1 year kind of. Reason is AI itself doesn't create value. AI value comes when people actually use it. Systems level thinking on what we call ability to integrate different elements of the application, that will become more and more important. AI forces are, because of the inherent model of, because of the agentic AI capabilities, it forces us to think of the overall system, how it gets affected and so on.
You have to have that mindset, not necessarily a great coder or great tester, but you have to bring in all those skills together. You also
The ability to articulate your solutions, the ability to solve problem, critical thinking, engaging stakeholders. I think just the communication skills, I think, become all the more important, right?
Subscribe to Seth Godin, who's a famous marketeer, his newsletter, and recently I think in one of his newsletter he wrote that while everybody will have access to AI to do the work, but the difference might come in how we communicate that work to the outside world.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Curious Minds. Today, we have a very, very interesting guest on our channel, Arpit Tandon. Arpit and I went to the same B school. That was ages back, and we're connecting after a long time. So, Arpit has been working as a senior leader in a multinational organization, driving businesses for large organizations. And today, in this conversation, we want to sort of get his point of view, specifically because he's been working in the Gen AI and AI space recently, and we thought it's a great opportunity to connect with him and share with our viewers his point of views, his experiences, and what's the thinking that some of the executives across the industries are doing in terms of integrating AI into their operations. Arpit, welcome to the channel. Welcome to this episode.
Thank you, Raju. It's a pleasure. It's always great to connect, back after, as you said, ages. So definitely, thanks for inviting me to your show, and look forward to the discussion. I know AI is everywhere, so it's always
Yeah,
a pleasure to
cool.
share and
Yeah, sure.
exchange insights.
welcome to the show,
Welcome.
Arpit.
Yeah. And
Looking forward
so,
to.
as always, my co-host Rajiv and I will be discussing a lot of things with Arpit. So let's begin. Rajiv.
Yeah, let's begin. And so there are a host of interesting topics we are hoping to discuss with you today, Arpit. So starting first with AI platform, we have been hearing this, AI platform firms building AI platform, hyperscalers building the AI platform. So we just want to demystify what is this AI platform business. When we say AI platform business, what is this? And also, if you can also talk about beyond the obvious tech giants, the hyperscalers who are building these, Microsofts and Amazons of the world. So, are there also some emerging players or perhaps some niche offerings coming into AI platform business?
No, thanks, Rajiv. That's a great question. I think the platform has become a very, as you rightly said, quintessential word in the AI era. And the reason is simple. When we say AI, I'm using AI. What am I using? So there are multiple layers in the AI ecosystem, starting from the chips that Nvidia is kind of dominating. Then comes your models, LLMs, where Claude, OpenAI, Google are big players. Then comes your orchestration layer, your different co-pilots, and then different domain solutions. So the whole idea about these platforms, in my experience, is how do and every firm has their own business strategy. They play in different markets. How do you combine these different value chains, and and then build on top of it? That's the whole idea. So not every firm will go and develop their own chips. Not every firm will go and develop their own LLMs. Whatever is available in the market, get ready in the ecosystem, build on top of it, and that's and come up with the AI platform that you can serve your markets.
So we could say that this AI platform is nothing but a buffet of all the AI offerings. You can come in and then you can just decide whatever you want to use. Everything's available, sort of.
Yeah, buffet, but it has to be integrated in a way that makes sense. So for example, how do you integrate your right LLMs at the right price point to certain
Hmm.
kind of general applications? So I always say there are certain horizontal applications, like if you are connecting your LLMs to a set of documents, or you are preparing a developing a customer service application. Those are horizontal applications that need to be connected to the right AI models at the base layer. So when you connect all these different things in the seamless manner, then perhaps the platform is becomes the right word.
So Arpit, Rajiv raised another question, right? Isn't that what the hyperscalers are doing, right? And they have the financial muscle, they have the client base, they have the brand. So what's the scope for a player who's not a hyperscaler to go with a comprehensive AI platform into the market to clients, saying, "Don't use Microsoft, choose me."
Again, a great question, Raju. When we look at AI applications, so in the AI value chain, you are right. Certain layers like your LLMs, chip. I'm not even touching around it. The hardware layer, even the general application layers, they are very few players can fight in that market. Those large hyperscalers with a huge financial muscle and distribution network, where the opportunity really lies, and that's the biggest portion. And many research estimates says that up to 80% of the future financial value will come from those business applications.
Yeah.
The real
Hmm.
example is those business applications like specific HR applications, trade finance applications, wealth management applications, where a lot of these service providers, consulting firms play. Those require very specific applications, specific
Hmm.
workflows, and so on, that these hyperscalers don't really target. They mostly provide broad base level applications. So the opportunity lies is, how do you take whatever is available in the market, then customize, fine tune, add your domain specific expertise, and make it actually work in the business context. I think that's where the value lies for players who are outside the hyperscaler arena.
So in your
Another
experience,
thing, another thing, Raju, if I just add, one thing, for example, there are many, IT service companies who are also building their platforms and going to,
Absolutely.
their clients. Okay, we have this, we have this, entire offering. Not just we will not just come and build. Okay, we have this tool and platform as well. So this is our platform. Using this platform, you can build your AI applications, right? So one of the like Raju was asking, what is the differentiation? One differentiation is, I think, is on cost as well, because for example, we recently went to Agent Force, which is Salesforce's now big offering, but they are extremely expensive, right? Compared to say any other, say, an IT service provider, they will take their platform. It might be much more affordable. So like you said, not everybody may be able to afford those hyperscaler solutions.
Yeah, that's again a great point. I mean, price versus value is also a key point. Not every application needs the latest and the greatest
correct.
LLM.
Mm.
Even the smaller models work very well in certain
Yeah.
cases.
You talked about business application, and that's very intriguing because I think we also have been seeing that trend where the general emphasis is what are the use cases, what problems are these solving for me. So can you give some examples, maybe even one example of any use case that that really hit the nerve with the client in any industry?
Absolutely. So I'll take an example of a US healthcare insurance focused solution. It's a kind of a payment integrity solution that CGI offers, which basically lets the insurance payers identify the fraudulent claims and so on. So the way we approached it is, and it's a great application of how AI gets integrated into the exact business workflow. In a world without AI, typically, there is a platform where all the, claims are recorded. Then there are a lot of auditors who are doing the manual work,
Yeah.
reviewing against the rules and so on. So the way what we did is we used a lot of domain agnostic solutions like a co-pilot, like some kind of AI based search that we developed in house, and we integrated into that platform. So that platform basically had all the features where you could interact with the documents, you could just ask questions, you could match the claims against the rules what the insurer has. And by doing all of that, if in a day, typically x amount of auditors were able to process 100 claims, then using the solution in our example we are able to do 4 or 5 times of that.
Yeah.
So that's a very clear application of how you integrate. So rather than developing an AI native solution, whatever is available, we kind of transform it using gen AI features and then improve the productivity of the end user and obviously giving the right financial benefits.
So what you're saying is essentially you took the current ecosystem into play and tried to embed your solutions into that rather than reinventing the wheel and just suggesting transformational ideas and blueprints to the client, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are definitely the things because all the clients, they have already made large investments in existing solutions. So what
That
they are
makes sense.
asking is, how can you really use AI to transform the solutions that we are doing, and maybe let us do that faster, cheaper, and at a much higher productivity rate.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
Arpit,
Yeah.
there, would you say that AI applications would be sort of an add-on or play a sort of an ancillary role, or will sit on top of the existing applications? Or because we have heard these bold claims as well. Okay, you don't need your CRM, you don't need Salesforce, or you don't need these softwares because AI will be able to do everything. Because for example, when Satya Nadella recently says SaaS is dead. So when he says SaaS is dead, what does that mean in the age of AI?
Yeah. No, Rajiv, that's a great point you have touched, and it's recently coming into the picture. And maybe I'll take a minute to
Sure. Yeah.
go back in the past when we were talking when ChatGPT became mainstream in late 22 or early 2023. The whole concept of AI productivity was revolving around co-pilots, human in the loop. Yes, AI will be an assistant. AI can give you benefits and so on. So that time the whole thing was, yes, you can have different SaaS solutions, software solutions, and you can have AI features integrated. One of the examples that I also talked about just now in one of the healthcare focused solutions. However, when a lot of discussions are happening around SaaS, how it will get transformed, even my personal experience and whatever we are also working on is around agentic AI or the AI agents. Now they are transforming a lot of things, and why this topic is coming, that whether SaaS is dead or SaaS will get transformed. If you fundamentally think, what is SaaS? SaaS is basically a kind of a system of records. If you take a CRM, basically you store a lot of customer data, and then you do a lot of services around it. Now, whether that service is in-house or a third-party vendor is immaterial, but you do a lot of create, update, read, and delete kind of operations on that database, and then a lot of different departments use it. But when the same kind of operations an AI agent can do, and while connecting with multiple system of records, then the whole usage of AI gets or SaaS gets transformed. Whether you need one SaaS system or whether you can store in multiple places and then let the AI agent use it. So what I would say is, our thinking is, again, 6 months back, if you had asked me the same thing, I would say, hey, it's just a hype. But when we really look at the power of AI agents, the way things are transforming, yes, it looks like SaaS will undergo a serious transformation simply because of the ability of the AI agents to spread across multiple databases and actually perform the task rather than only providing information.
No, that's a very
Uh,
interesting
so
insight. But yeah,
yeah.
sorry, Raj, but again, we have been exploring AI agents in our own form, right? And so far, what we have sort of discovered is that the vision that you're sort of putting forward is obviously very transformational in nature. Because I mean, what is going to happen is workflows are going to change. I mean, if you want to integrate AI agents into your workflow, you need to give them access to APIs and tools and databases and so on and so forth, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of the big organizations are still built on legacy tech stack. So how is that going to sort of play out? I mean, because it's going to be a multi-year transformation, and clients really, in this tight cost environment, are not letting their purses or wallets loose, right? So there is cost pressure. So how is the balance happening, and where you have to invest in innovation, which is AI agents, but then those are going to be transformational, and therefore you don't have so much money to invest at this point in time, especially when the ROI is also under question.
No, absolutely, Joe. So as you rightly said, it's not a next 6 months or even a 1 year kind of a plan. It's a multi-year transformation, and maybe the picture that I was talking of was the end state. So the way we are seeing clients, are mostly so. What I say is, human in the loop, human on the loop, and human out of the loop. I mean, this is a very simple way analogy I typically use. So right now, clients are mostly, or even our firms is mostly focusing on human in the loop.
Yeah,
Okay, fine. You use some co-pilots, you generate some insights, let some human review, see the ROI. The next phase is maybe human on the loop, where you do a little bit more automation. You, rather than only AI agents, yes, you implement a little bit of RPA,
yeah,
typical deterministic automation, have certain reviewers. And then finally, the state when I was talking about, where the AI agents can actually spread across multiple databases,
yeah,
there it is mostly human out of the loop, where you need a lot of the trust factors, where you need to resolve a lot of the copyright issues, where you need to be confirmed around the ROI. So that's maybe the third stage of
yeah.
the game. But right now, most of the work, most of the business applications is revolving around human in the loop kind of
If
business
I ask you to
applications.
make a prediction, Arpit, it might be just finger in the air prediction because nobody knows, because the way these things are rapidly growing and we see new announcements almost every week. So if you're saying right now it's human in the loop, so if you have to pick a timeline, okay, this is the timeline in which we are seeing maybe human on the loop, and this is the timeline when you can really trust those AI agents and everything, and you are not so worried about the hallucinations and your responsibility as stuff is taken care of, which is when we move to human out of the loop. What timeline it
How
looks
f-
like?
how far is that?
How far are we?
I think it is still, I would say, at least 4 to 5 years in my view. I mean, we are still at least, this year, maybe the next will be mostly focused around human in the loop. Maybe human on the loop starts coming in. But when you talk of really the AI agents doing the bulk of the work, I would say at least 4 years ahead. I don't
Oh,
see it
yes.
happening
So,
sooner than
so which means we'll still be this year in the POCs and experimentation, is it? Because there's a lot of talk saying that there is generally an experimentation and use case fatigue. So now it's time to move on to real use cases and scaled implementations.
So again, yes, you're absolutely right, Raju, that across firms, across organizations, we are seeing the POC fatigue. So I would not say that this POC stuff will continue. Yes, I mean, co-pilot or human in the loop kind of applications will happen. But one of the biggest problems that I have seen personally while leading, AI platform business here in my firm and across multiple clients, one of the biggest challenges that's coming out is, yes, we think about the use case, we think about the whole AI story around it, but what we are missing is how do we integrate those AI outputs into our workflows or
Yeah,
into the hands of the people.
yeah,
I think that is where a lot of the focus is going. So, once a lot of companies these days are focusing, okay, fine. If suppose this AI application comes to life, this POCs are
okay,
not a failure, but integrating those POCs or giving those POCs into the hands of actual business users, I think that's where the focus is shifting dramatically this year, in
correct,
my experience.
right.
Right, right, right. Okay, got it. Also, Arpit, Raju and I recently did a conversation between two of us because we were wondering about what is the future of IT services company, because we work in IT services, right? So as a whole, because IT services are typically built on this cost arbitrage, and if you look at the history of the last maybe 2 decades, even when an analyst looks at large companies, Accenture or TCS, they will look at, okay, how many people they have added, that would be proportionate to how much growth they have had, right? So with AI, that model is sort of being transformed, being disrupted, right? So what do you think? What is the future of Indian IT companies, IT service companies?
So while I won't go into the prediction mode, but a couple of factors that I'm closely watching out, and I'm sure everybody is, and that's where the future is now. Which firms really go in that direction, or which firms do not, is still a matter of debate. But basically, if you look, Rajiv, as you rightly said, services or model or consulting, even broadly, had a very
Hmm.
specific model that you have headcount. Basically, the business was mostly around efforts and not
Correct.
outcomes. I
Correct.
think now what is happening, and which will happen more and more whenever I discuss with the clients, the commercials are moving towards that is whether you deploy 10 people or 100 people or 5 people or 2 people is immaterial. I mean, whether you use 10 agents or 20 agents is immaterial, as long as whatever you have committed, the outcomes you are able to achieve.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think that is where we are moving now. Whether a company is actually ready for AI or less ready for AI, but the commercial model is moving mostly towards the outcomes and less on the effort side.
Right.
That's one change. The other change that I am actually seeing is uh, is mostly about the relationships, and that's an interesting
Mm.
point I want to bring about. Is in the sense, traditionally IT services, when you say, the relationship has been around the CIO office or the
Correct.
IT departments in any major client.
Yep.
But when you look at, and recently there was an interesting report by Gartner and a couple of other research firms as well, where they're saying more than 50% of the IT budget is coming directly from the business
Yeah.
stakeholders.
Hmm.
Mm.
Because when I'm talking about business transformation, it is actually impacting, and AI is not something so technical that a business user is not understanding. So
Very
if the
interesting.
budget is
Yeah.
coming from a business stakeholder, am I having the right relationship with the business?
Mm.
Because yes, CIO office will be responsible for deploying, will be responsible for integration, will be responsible perhaps for procurement, but the decision might lie with the business stakeholders. So if I'm having the right relationship, right discussions, then only I can get into the game of actually AI implementations. I think
Right.
that's a key element that a lot of firms were missing, and perhaps making steps towards that.
Very, very
Right.
interesting. Very, very interesting point, actually, Arpit. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like you said, typically, the sales folks will have relationship with CTOs, right? CTOs and CIO's office. But the game is changing now. So, in fact, another thing what I wanted to ask is how is the traditional, say, software development projects differ, in the age of AI, or how will AI projects will be different? Here, the business may not go to their tech team. They may go come directly. This is what I want,
Yeah, I
right?
think yeah, that's again a good question, that how AI projects. You're right. I mean, when businesses, they don't always necessarily need to go to the CIO office. In fact, we are seeing in couple of banks, the banking clients, we have seen this change, that they wanted some kind of a reporting solution. So typically, the whole thing was they would go to the IT team and ask
Mm,
them to prepare certain dashboards and so on. Now
right.
their business users can use very simple English language, and they can generate SQL queries to prepare reports quickly. Having said that, when you talk about the difference again between this AI projects and the traditional software, again I would step back a bit, and I would say two or three different differences that we are seeing. One is, inherently AI projects are probabilistic and not deterministic. Whatever
Mm,
outcome you get, it is not it can never be 100% accurate. I mean, it's inherent maths behind it. It's a probability. So you can reduce hallucinations to an extent, but you can never say, in a traditional software I can say if 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. That's how I would test it. But testing an AI project or a AI application is very different. It is about how likely it is to produce the right outputs, what kind of creativity it would give. So I think that is still the teams, the traditional project managers are getting used to it,
Hmm.
because as a traditional project managers were very much used, hey, this is the requirement, this is the outcome. When it is still a matter of judgment, I think that is where a lot of the projects are getting changed.
Yeah. So one
And
thing, yeah. Sorry, Arpit. I think you're continuing. Sorry. Yeah.
yeah, Raju, maybe I'll just bring one more
Yeah.
aspect, before this thing is on the commercial side. I think one thing with traditional software is, traditional software, while it had its fixed high cost, development cost or whatever at one time, you do not have a high running cost.
Yeah.
You develop a software, then you keep running it. Developing copies is not very expensive. What we say, marginal cost is not high in
mm,
software. But in AI, whether you use a whatever model you use, running cost is always very high,
Oh,
whatever GPUs you're
Mm,
the
using and all.
OpEx, the
So that
OpEx.
means, yes, the OpEx part, absolutely. The OpEx is a higher percentage. So how do you do the commercials of that project itself is very different,
Yeah.
with AI.
So that really
interesting.
sort of leads me nicely to the next question, which you wanted to know. If the commercial model itself, is different to how traditional projects are, budgeted, how do you answer a question to to an executive who says, well, if I implement this use case, what's my ROI? Because that's our experience as me and Rajiv. We've been hearing a lot of those kind of questions where no matter how fancy or earth shattering the solution is, the question is, what's the business case behind this? What's my ROI? I mean, if it's probabilistic in nature, it becomes all the more difficult to justify, right? I mean, how do you say that this is the X amount of dollars that you're going to save? Because that's a very hard question that we are having to deal with, and we are able to mock up numbers, but there's no real justification behind the numbers. So how do you do an
And if
ROI
I,
for
yeah,
for AI
uh,
projects?
yeah, yeah. Yeah. If I before you answer, Arpit, if I also just add on to that, right? So one is typically you'll do your business, you'll make your business case, you'll do cost benefit analysis, and that is how you'll take it to whoever is a sponsor. They will approve, right? And here, proving that is difficult. So would you say it still has to follow that, or that is also being changed, and you sort of need to take a leap of faith?
Raji, I won't go to that extent to say that these AI projects are a completely leap of faith right now. But what I have seen, it's as you rightly said, it's a difficult question. All the enterprises are kind of struggling to really come to terms with that. But the focus typically has been either on the cost side or the revenue side.
Yeah.
So the factor around ROI, the it looks easy that you typically focus on the cost side. So one of the things where projects have still not really been confident around is you already have some kind of a cost base. When I say cost base, is it your existing team headcount, is it your existing hardware
Mm,
requirements and so on. So not lot of teams are still willing to say, hey, using these AI tools I can slash 15-20% of whatever my cost base. I think that is where a little bit of a leap of faith is still required. But and gradually teams are getting to that trust level. Hey, if I keep using it for a while, I can slash my cost base, because without that, it's very difficult. The other portion is on the revenue side. I think that's where still we are slightly far ahead in terms. Whether these AI opportunities can open new markets. Of course, they can,
Mhm.
but the kind of business opportunities these applications might open, might not open, it needs a bit of creativity. These are AI native applications, so I don't see that happening within the next couple of years at least.
Yeah.
But on the cost side, it's more becoming a thing that companies get comfortable whether I can really slash my hard cost to see the ROI.
Yeah. So some of
So,
the use cases. Yeah, Rajiv,
yeah,
go
Rajeev,
ahead.
go. Yeah, what I was saying is, so Arpit, beyond this hype, if I may call it hype, but organizations are genuinely seeing any tangible returns on their AI investments already, or the majority is still doing POCs and experimenting and hoping for some returns in the future, or they have
Yeah.
already started seeing the returns.
So I mean, if it's just seed funding and some use case has been implemented, and then it doesn't go beyond that, it's still lab experiments, right?
No, yeah, you're right. I think no, I'm seeing a very different picture, at least in my organization and many other organizations, and the difference comes. So you're right. I mean, I cannot say that all the projects have been successful, and you're right. I mean, many of these projects start with a seed funding. I think a couple of projects where we have seen a real big difference have share one common characteristic. Those applications have a lot of users.
Yeah.
So I think one place where we are missing is, and I'll just quote a simple example. We have developed a company wide sales enablement, Gen AI native sales enablement platform. The whole idea was, yes, few people were using it good, it was providing good results, and then suddenly, after certain discussions, a senior executive decides, hey, why don't we roll out across the company and see what's the usage? And after a couple of months after that decision, suddenly the whole game changes. Because the reason is AI itself doesn't create value. AI value comes when people actually use it.
That's right. Yeah.
So what you just mentioned, coming out of that POC, see, one of the risks that people that a lot of execs have, and it's a true risk, that when you roll AI across a large number of people, the variable cost might go up. You do not have full control how many prompts are going, what kind of prompts are going, do you have the right guardrails in place? Yes, those are things you need to take care of. But the real value I'm seeing in organizations, wherever they are willing to roll it to a large, it doesn't always have to be company wide, but to a large user base, then people start using it in creative ways and the value starts coming through.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if you want to pigeonhole it in one few set of pilot users, then the application is not giving you full
yeah.
benefits.
So that's what we're calling
Absolutely.
enterprise AI, right? Not just AI in isolation or in a pocket, but it has to be
Yes,
enterprise-wide change, right?
Again, I'm
absolutely.
going to ask slightly different question here, but I still believe is very relevant to what the point you just made. When you talk about rolling it out across the enterprise, many users, right? There's a huge element of change management and training and upskilling, and people being comfortable using it and adoption. What's been your experience in that? I mean, I know there's still not full blown scaled implementations, but what's the early point of view you're getting around change management and training and upskilling in organizations?
Great point, Raju. I won't quote the exact numbers, but just to give you a sense, when I said we rolled out a company-wide sales enablement platform, almost 25%, close to a quarter of the budget goes into change management and training.
Mm.
And that's a big point that you alluded to. While we focus a lot on the engineering, we focus a lot on the identification of use cases, but post rollout of this, letting people exactly use it in the right way, encourage them to often use it, I think it needs a lot of the old world push. You need to have a lot of connects, you need to have separate budgets around it. Almost a quarter of the budget goes in these programs. So yes, identifying those typical champions across different units, encouraging them, train the trainer kind of models. So all those typical old-fashioned change management, communication,
Yeah.
getting the feedback. So I think all that is very important, and I absolutely agree that it's a big part of the wide rollout of these AI tools.
And that would
So
also
coming,
mean some upskilling and learning for the change managers also, because this is also new for them. So I don't know, maybe a role like AI change manager is coming. Or
Yeah, absolutely. Lot of these roles. If you look at these, change managers. If a lot of people ask me, "Hey, what my role would be in the AI world?" I often my response is not something dramatically new, but figure out, if you are using AI, how will that change? So a lot of these, change managers or even agile coaches, I say, who are typically whose main job is to create change in the teams, they are transforming how these AI tools, if they are used widely, how will that be more productive, how to encourage people to use it more often. So I think those kind of roles are coming up quite a
yeah,
bit.
yeah. As in my again, I found one framework to be very useful in answering questions like this is you either fall in one of these three buckets in enterprises. You're either a builder of AI, which is the engineering department and the transformation office, or you are a user of AI if you're a frontline staff who's serving the customer and using it to be more productive, or you are a regulator of AI, which is the responsible AI and and the guardrail team. So you decide which bucket do you fall under, and accordingly align yourself if you're in an enterprise. So I found this framework very useful. Builder, user, or regulator of AI in an organization.
Awesome. I mean, that's a great learning. That's a very simple, but yeah, very useful framework. So thanks for sharing. Yeah, definitely a good takeaway for me as well.
No, no.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, Arpit, since you said we are in the human in the loop, then we'll be moving from human on the loop, out of the loop, etc. And one concern certainly is with these LLMs, because they are really large language models, trained on billions and maybe sometimes trillions, of parameters or tokens. So to control that hallucination and to make sure that I get more and more accurate answers. One thing is small language models. Many firms are exploring the small language models. So what do you see the trend there? Is it still sort of picking up? Firms are looking to build it, because we have heard a few use cases where, for example, the JP Morgan In Bloomberg, they have built it. But what trend do you see there in small language models?
Yeah. No, small language models are yet to,
Mm,
gain that prominence or pickup, but we are seeing very specific use cases. So earlier, Rajiv, what used to happen at around even in the last year, the focus was on the RAG framework, retrieval augmented
Yeah.
generation. Rather than
yep,
change the models, use a set of
yep.
documentation or the database connected with an LLM. But what we are seeing is in very specific kind of domains. Like, for example, if you have a very specific healthcare kind of data or trade finance data, these RAG frameworks typically are not working very well. Then you're using an expensive, large language
Mm,
model, and the database is simple. So instead, what we are seeing is you use a small language model, use whatever domain data you have, and basically fine tune the language model.
Yeah.
And if you look at the cost curve, what Google and even OpenAI are providing, those fine tuning costs have almost fallen 60 to 70% in the last year and a half itself. So fine tuning is not very expensive. It's not very costly. So small language models, you fine tune it on a specific data, and
mm.
they start providing good results. I think that's where the value of those SLMs lie.
Have you sort of, in your experience, have you been interacting with any client or any organizations building an SLM internally? Again, you don't have to share details, but just some point of view, generic point of view that you can share if there is anything.
Yes, yes, we have been in discussions with a couple of healthcare clients who, because one of the things is as service providers, you need to partner. So as a service provider, we do need to partner with a technology firm,
Mm,
who has the right infrastructure for fine tuning and the right
Right.
LLMs. At the
Right.
same time, we do partner with certain firms who own the data. Now,
Yeah.
as a service provider, you do not always own the data. So for fine tuning and all, so yes, in short, we have been in touch with a couple of healthcare and banking clients, who have shown interest in fine tuning the SLMs using their data. So that part we are definitely in discussions with.
All right.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Also, one thing I wanted to ask for. So, for example, I went to this, a meetup of a small, AI company here in Sydney, right? And they were, it was a small, group, and there was somebody who was building something in the for a hospital, and sort of an ERM or a CRM for a hospital, right? And then they're like, we have been asked, can you also build AI in this? So looks like whether you go to a board or whether you go to any business, everybody wants to do something in the AI. If you're doing some project and if there's no AI in it, then there's always this question, okay, can we do something in AI? So, but in your experience, so the demand for AI projects, is it still a push or is it more of a pull from from clients?
So, Rajiv, when you say AI projects, I would say there are two ways to look at it: whether it has AI features or whether you are using AI to make it, develop it
Mm,
faster. So, if you say AI features, yes, it's very hard to sell any product today if you don't have AI features, at least
mm,
some basic ones.
Yeah.
But it's still, on the fringes. It's not a main part of your
correct,
application.
correct.
But if you go to the other side, whether you are using AI to develop it faster,
In
that's where the
SDLC,
first line of
right?
demand is coming from. That everybody is asking, hey, you have to use AI to develop it quicker, cheaper, and in relatively less time. So I think that's where the first push is coming.
Got it. And that leads me to another question. How is India doing in the age of AI? Why India doesn't have something like a DeepSeek where we have such brilliant minds? Why do we not have an LLM from India? Why do you think?
Well, that's a very broad question, but the way I would think about it, I mean, even if we look in general, I think that's a point. A lot of, I think, even the recent our commerce minister raised with certain startups and so on.
Yeah, Piyush Goyal, yeah.
Yeah, Piyush Goyal. I think a lot of the focus has been around quick monetization, but rather than asset creation. If you think about a DeepSeek or any kind of LLM, essentially it is about creating a valuable asset at first.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mm,
you have to monetize it at some point of time. I remember, some quote recently. I really forgot whether it was by Sam Altman or somebody else. when they asked, what is your monetization plan? And I think, yeah, it was Sam Altman. And he said, my plan is to create the best AI model and let the AI model tell me how to monetize it. So
That's
the
nice.
whole
Yeah.
idea is, and the whole idea is you have to have first focus on creating a valuable
Creating,
asset,
exactly, exactly,
and then be patient with it on the monetization front. If you really want the ROI in the next 6 months or 12 months, it's not really possible to develop an LLM.
exactly.
I think that's where gradually the focus is going. That create focus on creating the right capabilities, right assets, and the monetization will gradually happen.
But for
Very,
for for
very,
for,
yeah,
for, some- for
very
s-
good
yeah,
point.
but for
Yeah.
something like a large language model, there's substantial
Mm,
upfront capex required, right? And we know how it is. I mean, yes, there have been noise from all corners saying that what has the government done to actually invest in research and R&D, and sort of encouraging these kind of startups. Not much, right? And again, even investors look, like you said, right, look for quick returns. So are they going to be patient? A SoftBank or somebody, would they be willing to come and say, here's the money, take, go 5 years, build an LLM, and then we'll see.
yeah, yeah.
I think couple of nuances there, Raju and Rajiv. I think one is, having a completely indigenous LLM, as you all are alluding. Other, I think that is looking more likely is more around region specific LLMs. Like, for example, rather than starting from scratch, now Mistral released a few region specific models recently. I forgot the exact name; they gave it a specific name. So what is happening is, rather than having a model as big as a, say Gemini 2.5 or a Llama 4 series, not that size of models,
Yeah.
but you have, so the first layer of models, which is trained on basic internet data, what we called a pre-trained LLM, that is pretty easily available as open source. You take that and then you make it more region specific. India has so many languages, so many cultures, and so on. So I think when you make very region specific, very cultural specific LLMs, I think that I would see India going that route, that having multiple,
Yeah.
region specific LLMs, rather than focus on creating the most biggest LLM in the world.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
might be
Yeah.
better use of our, investment rather than building the same thing which is currently available, is what you're alluding to.
Absolutely, I think then
Yeah,
you customize it according to your
yeah,
culture, to your language, to your food, to your everything else.
Yeah. As one of
yeah,
the very,
absolutely. In
very,
fact,
very, yeah, as one of the very renowned leaders also mentioned, right? I mean, application layer is where India should potentially play, maybe not play catch up with the West in terms of building LLMs from scratch.
mm,
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, we have to be aware that, while we cannot, so even in LLMs, if you look at it, there are three broad layers I often talk about. One is the what we call the pre-trained layer, which is a compression of the internet data. You scroll
correct.
multiple, millions of websites and have a pre-trained model. Now that is a commodity that is easily available.
Yeah.
Then what most companies go in the post-training phase, where they fine-tune it, with tons of examples or the conversations in their specific ways. I think that phase, India can definitely play into, where you
Mm,
customize based on our
Yeah.
dialects, based on our system, and so on. And then obviously reinforcement learning comes later on. So I would say, don't go for the base layer, that pre-training internet data is same, but yes, more on the fine tuning, more on the, post training phase. I think that's where the opportunity definitely lies for
Ex-
indigenous models.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah.
definitely. And also, if I can get your views, I don't know if you will have any view there, but I'll still ask Arpit because that is a hot topic currently going on. The world order, which is being disrupted, changed by Mr. Trump due to these tariffs, etc., right? The mayhem which is going on. Do you think it will have any significant impact on this AI revolution? Because this guy is going to be here for another 4 years, right? And he'll keep on, doing such things because his focus is more on, manufacturing and all those things and less on AI. And all these will have impact on the businesses because ultimately a lot of investments, etc., has to go into this.
So, Rajiv, while geopolitical predictions, I'm not an expert and I won't
Yeah,
comment, but I think I personally feel that it will accelerate AI adoption. And why?
yeah,
What we have seen in
interesting.
history, if you look at any major technological, trends in history, typically they get combined with any of the major geopolitical or economic forces of their time. Now, what
Mm,
these tariffs will do essentially is putting a lot of cost pressure on companies. Whether it's near shoring, in sourcing, whatever different trends you're doing,
mm,
a lot of companies will be forced to actually adopt AI faster than they would otherwise. So even
right.
if you do not have the right ROI because of these different geopolitical factors, you will be forced to bring certain capabilities in house, do a lot of things. I think that is where I personally feel AI adoption might accelerate, even though that's not the prime objective.
Correct. Not
Correct.
just
Yeah.
Gen AI, more so robotics, because if you have to bring in
Absolutely,
manufacturing, for example, robotics is the way
absolutely,
to go because you don't have that much manpower otherwise.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Mm,
as I was reading,
interesting.
right? I mean, as I was reading, I mean, it says that if the tariffs are high, right, you have to basically still protect your margins. So you might as well need less people to do the same amount of work or even more. So, like you said, right, kind of
Correct.
rightly agree to that point of view that probably the AID adoption might just accelerate because of this, and it might just be what do you call, like a shot in the arm for AI especially, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if you step back and look at the cloud adoption, this 2008 2009 crisis, it forced a lot of companies to think differently, because there were pressures, timelines were getting shrunk, and a lot of companies were forced to look at SaaS, cloud native environments, and so on. I think this is even a broader trend. So perhaps if there is an economic slowdown or something, it might have a indirect impact on AI adoption for sure.
Mm. Also,
Awesome.
Arpit, to that, maybe the last question from me, because I think we are almost at time. But since we're talking about so many changes happening, like you said, AI and robotics will rather gain pace rather than slowing down in this environment. So I'm thinking, in fact, Raju and I were talking, say, if we were just about to pass from our MBA, because I also did MBA at the same time, 2012, 14, right? Or, somebody who's in engineering, I will be really terrified, petrified, or maybe confused that, how will the future look like in 5 years, 10 years down the line? So, what do you think? What kind of, roles will emerge more and more? And, if somebody listening to this wants to get some sort of few advice, what kind of skill sets should one focus on? So, if somebody who is, around this AI, or IT services industry.
Yeah. No, that's always a very difficult and an often asked question,
Yeah.
and it's a valid one. I would say systems level thinking, or what we call ability to integrate different elements of the application, that will become more
Mm,
and more important. So what one often what happens is, if suppose you are a product owner or developing a product, often people used to think in different silos. Okay, this part does it well, this part does it well,
Yeah.
but AI forces are, because of the inherent model of, because of the agentic AI capabilities, it forces us to think of the overall system, how it gets affected, and so on. And the folks who are able to do that might get even more in demand, but siloed
mm.
thinking will move towards system level thinking, in my view.
Right, right. So you have to have
Yeah.
that mindset, not necessarily a great coder or great tester, but you have to bring in all
Absolutely.
those skills together. You also have to be a product
Yes.
owner, you have to be a BA as well, you also have to be a developer. I mean, all of those things comes
Absolutely.
together, right?
Combine different elements, and
Mm,
then focus on the outcome rather than only on the siloed modules that you're
Which is when
discussing.
I think apart from the core engineering skills, Arpit, I think the ability to articulate your solutions, the ability to solve problem, critical thinking, engaging stakeholders. I think just the communication skills, I think, become all the more important, right? The softer sort of skill sets become, I think, more important in this age. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, Raju. So it reminds me, I'm subscribed to Seth Godin, who's a famous marketeer, his newsletter.
mm,
And recently, I think in one of his newsletter, he wrote that while everybody will have access to AI to do the work, but the difference might come in how we communicate that work to the outside world.
Right. Yeah.
That
mm,
will be very different. So you're right. I mean, yes, you can ask AI model to do something, you can get different type of prompts, it might help you, but then how you translate that AI output to whatever problem you're trying to solve, or whatever stakeholders are in front of you, I think that's where a lot of the differentiation or the value might lie.
Awesome. I think we are ending on a
Great.
great note. It was a wonderful conversation for our viewers, right? I mean, look at the breadth of topics we discussed. We started with demystifying AI platforms. We talked about how the future of IT services could look different, right? Where it becomes more outcome focused rather than effort focused. ROI still remains a thorny question, I guess. Change management is going to be massive. Upskilling is absolutely the order of the day. I think there's no denying on that. India can still play a massive role, right? Not just in the base layer, but in terms of fine tuning and customizing the LLMs for our use cases. So I think that's where the play is. We talked about tariffs, and I think Arpit made a very strong point saying probably the adoption is only going to accelerate if anything else.
Accelerate.
And I think towards the end, I think the key message that I think I leave with is communication skills, being able to solve problems, critical thinking, emotional intelligence. I think will be extremely crucial. I think those are traits that I think a machine, at least not in the near future, can replicate. So on that note, thank you, Arpit. I think it was a wonderful conversation, and
Thank you, Arpit.
thanks for sharing great insights, very valuable insights. I think our viewers will absolutely love the conversation, and we thank you for your time. And for the viewers, stay tuned, and we'll be back soon with another episode and another wonderful guest. Thank you, Arpit, once again.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was a wonderful, discussion and sharing of insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arpit.